Thank you very much for having me.
Good, good. Yes. I this my screen is blocking out all the people above. But Kate, do give us your talk.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you to all for listening today and for the invitation. So we've got a lot to get through. It's a really exciting project. I hope you'll enjoy it. So yes, I was asked by Buckholt CIC to do an excavation a couple of years ago now. It's the most amazing landscape, as you can see from this video, which I'll cut short because we don't have an awful lot of time. So Buckholt CIC, they are essentially a couple of landowners who own the woodland, who would like to do more woodland crafts, more activities. And I was invited to do a one-day excavation back in 2023 on Henry Williams Cottage, which was abandoned in 1950. And you can see here that it's just all the flagstone has just fallen, and it's a fantastic site for a community excavation. Not enough time, only one day, but we gained a lot of interest, and it turned out to be the best activity in that year. So we were asked to return in June of last year, and we went back to the cottage, and you can see we have the lovely cottage walls. We've also got this beautiful cider press at the back here. Huge amounts of finds coming out. The first thing was this 1797 coin. So absolutely fantastic. But as part of the excavation, which was funded by the lottery. Oh, here we go. Here's part of the here's part of the cottage. Just some more lovely photos. The flagstones in situ here, all of the roof tile. Here's the tithe map of the cottage here. So as part of our remit, we were asked not only to look at the cottage here, but to look at the Iron Age enclosure, just marked above it here. And this was designated as a scheduled monument in 1996, so not very long ago. And the only thing that had occurred on the site beforehand was this survey from the 1970s, which shows a univalent enclosure. So we've got the single bank and ditch. These, we think here, are later medieval trackways cutting in, and then lots of quarrying going on up here. And this is the escarpment round the edge. So very little else going on inside. In terms of finds, there was a reference in this book by Monmouth Archaeology to one single flint. We know that more had been found. In fact, I was going through some documents earlier that happens to have come from another archaeologist, and came across letters from 1981 and 1996 talking about the finds that have been found in the area but not reported. So I think we're going to see a lot more of this over the next few years. So we do have the LiDAR. The LiDAR doesn't show an awful lot more than the earthworks survey. So here's the bank and the ditch and the two trackways running in and all the quarrying going on. It's interesting, the quarrying, we're not entirely sure what they're quarrying for. So it's part of the brownstones formation where you get sandstone, and we do have quarries. Here's some quarries over here that are into the hill slope. But these were more like bell pits, and we're not sure what they were looking for because the only other thing in the brownstones formation is clay. So that's a possibility, but that's something that we still want to uncover. And just showing here, this is the earthwork survey plan over the LiDAR, which fits very nicely. So we did 3 trenches. We spoke to Cardiff when we got scheduled monument consent. This first one was on the site of what we thought was a charcoal making platform that was brought up by the geophysics that was undertaken by Mark Lewis from the National Museum. And it also shows up on the LiDAR. So the next 2 trenches were in the ditch, and these were on the site of 2 rectangular depressions that we think were from the 1970s trenches that had been excavated without any record. So we were given permission to dig here because it had previously been
damaged.
impacted. So this is from the notice board right by the Buckholt wood Iron Age enclosure of what we thought it looked like beforehand. So we have the single bank and ditch and the wooden palisade with some roundhouses inside. However, when we spoke to Cadw, they said, we don't know why you want to excavate the site. It's not very significant, and it probably was never finished or inhabited. But it was part of our community group, and we were quite excited. It was a nice contrast to the cottage. So we started the excavation in the ditch, and first of all, you can see that it's not just an earthen bank. We did have a lot of stone, so this is cut into the bedrock here. But on this side, not only is it cut into bedrock, but it's also faced with stone. So it looked like a stone wall. And then it proceeded down to the bedrock at the bottom that had been leveled off beautifully. So we had approximately 4 meters from the top of the bank to the base. And then we found lots of evidence on the top of further stone. So it looked like there'd been a stone wall on the top of it. So this was straight away not an insignificant enclosure. So here's our other trench on the charcoal making clamp. You can see the dark soil here from the clamp, and it was seemed to be 12 meters wide, which is very large for a charcoal making clamp. The community excavation we had at this point, we had 30 volunteers a day of all ages. See this little guy here having a fantastic time in the dark mud. Interestingly, you could see where everyone was working, because those that were in the cottage were absolutely perfectly clean and were really excited because they were finding loads of stuff. Everyone in the ditches was covered in red clay, and everyone on the charcoal making clamp was absolutely black with charcoal. But they persisted through, and you can see up here some of the stone that is from the Iron Age enclosure. So while we were doing the excavation, one of the volunteers, it took him about 3 days for him to suss us out, and he thought we were okay. So he said, I'm going to bring in my flint tomorrow. And we're quite used to this on community excavations. But what we're not used to is someone bringing in thousands of high quality flints. You can see here, this is just part of the assemblage.
Nice,
He's been excavating in the area, unfortunately without permission, for the last 30 years. Most of it, I have to say, was in the topsoil and the leaf litter. However, if you can see me on the screen, you can see that we were given this as some of the pottery. But we had a count of 92 arrowheads, all of them early Neolithic, and the pottery, which wasn't from the leaf litter, that was quite obvious, but then lots of blades and axes, and it was very overwhelming at the time. So we came up with a plan. The founder was quite reluctant to just hand them over. He wanted to secure a place within the museum, so we spoke to the Monmouthshire museums. But before we started on an excavation, we went to do a little test pit at the end of our June excavation. And here you can see, this is our test pit. It's absolutely full of these broken up pieces of sandstone. To begin with, we thought this was backfill. And here, this is my normal position, upside down in a trench. We've just half sectioned it. And at the bottom, we came across a dark deposit where we stopped. During the excavation, we found lots of pieces of flint during this test pit. So we were confident that the flint that the person had found previously was from this site. So we felt happy to go ahead and raise some money. So I approached the lottery to ask if we could do another excavation. because the site is forestry, and there had been some evidence of machines going onto site. We asked for it. We considered the site to be at risk, so we asked for a very quick turnaround. And within a week, we had £30,000 to go back and do an initial excavation. So we had this is the potential site here, and this is the Iron Age enclosure at the top. So they're connected through this saddleback. It's really interesting. The only viewpoint from the Neolithic site is onto the Iron Age site. We thought it may have been, because there was quite a lot of earthworks on the site, so we thought it may have been an enclosure, possibly a causewayed enclosure. So we returned, and we had three objectives. The first objective was the flint and the pottery that has previously been found from that site. Had the site been significantly damaged through previous excavation, and was the site significant? So we pulled together a team. I was more excited about working with this team than I think the site. It really was a fantastic group of people to work with. So we had two independent archaeologists, Pete Noble and Jeff Morley, who are both commercial archaeologists who work pretty much predominantly with prehistoric sites. Got Mark Lewis from the National Museum, Amelia Pannett from Cardiff, who was our lithic specialist, Adam Stanford, who was doing all our photogrammetry and drone surveys, and Graham Eyre Morgan, who used to be the Samwell Borough archaeologist. So we had curatorial, we had commercial, we had universities, and we had national organisations. So it was a real joy to bring all these people together. So firstly, did we have, was the flint that we found the same as the flint that had previously been found? And yes, it was. So at present, we have 99 arrowheads. When I spoke to Amelia, I said, are you sure you haven't made that number up? Because 99 sounds like a really, really dodgy number. But no, we have 99 arrowheads. We have a piece of Langdale polished stone axe. Quite a lot of the flint. It was, to quote Amelia, it's not the crappy flint that you normally find in Monmouthshire, which I have to say I was very offended by that. But it seems to be mostly from southeastern England. We're still waiting on the results of the analysis, but we're very confident that the flint that the founder has found previously is from the site. You can just see, here's one of our trenches with a piece of pottery in here. So that was great. Has the site been damaged? No, it hasn't. So if you remember back to the test pit, it was covered in this layer of stone that we thought was backfill. It wasn't backfill. The whole site seems to have been covered in this layer of stone straight after it went out of use. So we've got lots of early Neolithic pottery and flints within all this stone. But it was also fantastic to show where the site had been damaged. So here you can see a gap in the stone. That was from a badger's set. But the rest of it, this seems to be a tumble down structure. Here you can see just the dense concentration of the stone. So it's not hill wash. These have been purposefully put over the site. So here's just a few of the trenches. We did 6 trenches in all. Not very big, but a couple of things to point out. Here we have this possible collapse wall. All the stones were at an angle, and you can see the difference. There's very little stone down here. So there is something going on here. Yes. So we're going to widen this trench next time. But also we have evidence of a ditch, a big ditch in here. You can just see the soil is just that little bit darker, again covered in all this stone. And we had Joshua Pollard come out to have a quick look. and he very excitedly stood on the side of this trench and pointed in there and said, "That's where all the goodies are going to be." So continuing back there this year. So we didn't want to just do the Neolithic site. We wanted to continue with our Iron Age site and with the cottage. So these were our 3 trenches from previously. We were allowed to do another one just here, which is on the edge of the enclosure, on the edge of the bank. And then we have 2 more on a potential western entrance here, and also on a stone mound that we found during the bracken bashing. I'm aware that we're coming up to the end, so I'll quickly run through this. So here we have the stone walling, and then we have a clay bank. So the clay had been brought in.
Yes.
Here's just showing the profile of the ditch. This was quite misleading. This is actually a bomb crater, which as soon as we came to the charcoal at the bottom, we very quickly evacuated. But we went back into the Iron Age site. This is back at the clamp again, removed all the charcoal. We have these lovely stones, which were fist-sized shaped stones with some slabs on the top. We only had 1 flint, and that was redeposited in the subsoil. So we had absolutely no artifacts from the Iron Age enclosure, which was very frustrating. But here you can see this is the bank, evidence of the bank here. And this was the terminus of the bank. There's no real formality to it. It just seemed to be tumble. So why there happened to be a 50-meter gap, we still don't know. So we need to return. At the moment, is it still unfinished? We're not sure. However, if you have a look, this is the medieval trackway that I mentioned. It's going up and down and up and down. And whether we don't have a uni-ballot enclosure, maybe we have something a bit more like the nearby Llanmellan Wood, where we've got multiple ditches and banks, but we just haven't, no one's really explored it before because it's still a very new monument in terms of its designation. So do we have, this is what we know, the bank and ditch, but do we have a potential annex coming out this way, and do we have a series of banks and ditches? This is something we're going to explore this year. I just put this in because I asked all the supervisors if they could do a quick sketch of what they think is going on the hill fort. And as you can see, ask 8 archaeologists a question and get 8 different answers. So at the top of the site, we had this feature, which was a circular mound with a big cut through the middle that I think is later truncation. The view, it's right on the top of the hill fort. So, and we excavated, and this is all stone piled on top of each other. So perhaps we have a round barrow or maybe even a long barrow. So this is something we're going to explore later this year. Down just very quickly, here's the cottage. You can see just fantastic. 2 best things, I think, was this ecclesiastical tile that had been placed upside down, so it looked plain, and a lovely mother of pearl pendant from the fireplace. And the volunteers did an absolutely amazing job here, clearing all this out. Absolutely superb. So not only did we have amazing archaeological results, but we also had fantastic training. So here we have local students delivering what they have found to for site visits. We had the police come along who were just interested, the local mayor, but also the sheer excitement. You see this guy's face here, how excited he is about this basin, and then finding all the Neolithic sites. It really was a fantastic community project. Then we also had great support from the archaeological community, so from Cardiff, the Royal Commission here. This is Tom Elliott from Historic England, because the site is just outside Monmouth and it's within a couple of meters of the English border. We did have Herefordshire Council contact us to just make sure that it was in Wales, because they wanted their hands on it. And Cardiff University represented down here, as well as Josh from Southampton. And then this is Chris Caswell, who's been working on the Preseli site. who happened to just call in from Lincoln to give us some free GPR survey. So absolutely fantastic support. So what next? Really, really quick. We're going to do more surveys, but here's our two sites. We've got the Iron Age Hill Fort here and our Neolithic site, but I went on 4 different databases to find this, and we have King Arthur's cave and the Little Doward Hill Fort. We have an insignificant, so it's called, enclosure up at the Kimmin, another possible insignificant enclosure up in Penalt, and then we've got Craigiedorth enclosure that's recently been found by the Royal Commission, Toby Driver, and then Toluch's farm has a Bronze Age enclosure and an Iron Age enclosure. So we have this really interesting prehistoric settlement with Monmouth in the middle of it here. And I find it interesting that the most of the prehistoric monuments in this area are described as insignificant. And I think this is because there's been so much focus on the medieval that there hasn't been much work done in the prehistoric. So we're hoping to change that. So just a big thank you to everyone that's been involved, and thank you very much for listening to me today.